I'm in Twensa, and we came here from Daegu yesterday, and we're getting ready for the push to Timbuktu. I've unloaded all my stuff. This is as clean my bike will ever get, I guess. Most of the stuff will be kept here at what is it called? Well, at the hotel, Campman Hogon. It's quite a simple place. I was sleeping on that last night with a mosquito net. Somehow I managed to get a cold in Mali, but it's the cold season, so people here have colds, so it spreads around. Anyway, last night, this morning I saw some SMS from Steve and Focka. So basically what happened to them is that they went one day ahead of us.
My name is Johan Gustafsson. I'm still in captivity by القاعدة Islamic Maghreb.
كان ذلك في نوفمبر العام 2011 في تمبكتو شمال مالي. آنذاك كانت يوهان غوستافسن يقوم برفقة الجنوب أفريقي ستيفن ماكاون والهولندي سياك ريكا وآخرين برحلة على الدراجات النارية. لكن هذه الرحلة لم تنتهي بخواتيم سعيدة، فجوهان غوستافسن تحول من مغامر إلى رهينة، وقد امتدت فترة احتجازه لدى تنظيم القاعدة في مالي إلى أكثر من 6 سنوات. يوهان غوستافسن روى لأخبار الآن تجربة مريرة خلطت لديه كل الأوراق.
Well, we just arrived to Timbuktu the day before, the evening before. And we took a little tour of the town before noon. And when it was getting hot, we returned back to the hotel. And while I was taking a nap inside the hotel, I heard a lot of commotion and noise outside. So I opened the door and tried to peek into the yard, but then there was a gunman in front of me, a masked gunman, and then so I was held at gunpoint there. And then we stood there for a while, and then I was led out through the courtyard and out on the street where I could see that German man, he was standing there. And they were beating him in his face with like flip-flops and belts and things like that. And then I was put on a pickup truck, Toyota Land Cruiser, where the 2 other friends were already handcuffed. And as soon as I got up on that pickup truck, they put a net on top of the bucky, and we drove away really fast. It was quite a big shock being just on the road traveling and then suddenly being in this situation where we didn't know what would happen to us, you know, whether they would take us just outside of the town. And actually already on the trip, I asked one of the men on the car if I tried to tell him I had money, I need medicine, anything, you know, to save my life. And then when I asked for medicine, he said, we have medicine. And then I kind of understood it was a kidnapping, because otherwise they wouldn't need medicine or they wouldn't give us. And then, of course, they never told us the demands, but we could understand that it was either a prison exchange or money. I would like to acknowledge any...
كانت جوهان يبحث دائما عن فرصة للهروب. حاول التظاهر باعتناقه الإسلام لزيادة فرص بقائه على قيد الحياة، والاعتباره أن ذلك هو الشيء الوحيد الذي يمكن أن يوفر له بعض الوقت، رغم أن نسبة الأمل في نجاح مخططه كانت ضئيلة.
The time I didn't know, but with the years, it's difficult to keep secrets when you are kept prisoner such a long time. So once in a while I could see GPS positions. I got a map after a few years that I kept secret. And so I have a pretty good idea where we were kept. And then we were moved around. So we were sometimes in the western part. Actually, most of the years we were in the western part, close to Mauritania. And then in the beginning, we were closer to Algeria, in the more mountainous part. We were kept together, the three of us. And after about 3 years, the man from Holland, he was removed from us. We thought he was freed, but he was actually moved to another camp and were kept there with a French person in 1 year. And then the French military rescued him. Me and the other guy from South Africa, we were kept together all the time.
We're now being sold like cattle in the markets.
But we didn't get along, which is very sad. Basically, I spent my time doing small hobby projects, and I always held on to the planning to escape, to give me like a sort of way out if things were getting too bad. If I couldn't endure it, there was always a way out. So I was always trying to think of ways to get out of there, but it was, of course, very difficult. My greatest fear was if I would get sick or get in pain, and then I wouldn't be able to, make a last-ditch effort to get out of there.
رغم يقينه بصعوبة الأمر إلا أن جوهان لم يتوقف عن التفكير بالهروب والتخطيط له، حتى تمكن من المغادرة ذات مرة بينما كان خاطفوه مشتتين. مشت جوهان في الصحراء لمدة يومين قبل أن يعثر عليه آسروه من جديد ويعيدوه إلى المخيم حيث كان يحتجز.
They treated us, how do you say, we were fed and treated, we lived in a similar manner as they did. Of course, there was a big change when I, in an effort to save my life, I converted. So before we converted, we were held basically on the edge of the camp, and they would keep a distance to us. They were treating us with a lot of contempt and disdain. There was a lot of hate towards us. They treated us like animals, basically. And it felt like you were an animal because we were very dirty and we were fighting with just keeping ourselves clean and just keeping ourselves warm. It was very cold in the winter and we didn't have any decent clothes. But after 3 months in March, I felt that time was running out and I felt that I couldn't escape. So I did whatever I could come up with, and that was to convert in order to save my life. I don't ever consider myself being a Muslim. I don't think that was a voluntary conversion. After that, things changed quite a bit because then I could, except praying together, we also ate together and slept together and spent all the time. So I wasn't kept separate anymore. And in that way, I also got to know them better. And it became a lot less scary. I started to get to know more and more people there, and I understood them better. Well, I only did it to save my life, nothing less. It wasn't anything I wanted in any way, and not for comfort or any other way. It's just, it felt like time was running out, and we were begging for our lives in these proof of life videos. So for me, it was quite clear we were kind of doomed. I never thought that. Of course, at that time, I didn't know anything about kidnapping or how it works. I just didn't have much information, and no one told us. So I never thought that my country would ever pay these men anything or, negotiate. So I thought time was running out. They looked very organized and seemed very confident in their demands, and also seemed quite. They didn't seem like people that would compromise. And I had seen what happened to that German man when we were kidnapped. So time was running out, and then that was the only thing I could think of that could change anything. I wasn't sure what would happen. But I didn't know much about Islam at the time.
السنوات الست التي قضاها يوهان غوستافسن في الأسر كانت صعبة للغاية، ليس فقط بالنسبة له إنما لعائلته أيضا. قطع الأمل ولم يكن يتوقع أن يعود يوما ما إلى المنزل مرة أخرى.
Well, after 5 years, I kind of had settled as that was my life. I wasn't keeping much hope of ever going home, and actually I tried to push that kind of hope to the side, because it was very painful to think of my family at home and my other life. So it was better to focus on what I could do there, and that was to keep myself healthy and in good spirit. But of course, they didn't keep me informed, and I think that the people around me generally didn't know anything about negotiations or anything like that either.
سياسة السويد تتمثل في عدم دفع فدية في حال حدوث عمليات خطف رعايا. الحال لدى أي رهينة تواجه خوفا حقيقيا من الموت على أيدي الخاطفين أن يتم دفع فدية من أجل الخلاص. لكن ليوهان غوستافسن كان ثمة موقف مغاير تماما، فهو كان يأمل عدم دفع أي فدية نظرا لتداعيات هذه الأموال على الأبرياء قياسا لسوء استخدامها من قبل الخاطفين.
It's a difficult situation, of course. So I don't think it's a black and white. It depends on what kind of damage if you give them money, you have to consider what kind of damage that makes. I mean, in the case of Mali, it seems like EQIM seemed to be able to run their organization on that kind of money and buy weapons, and the cost of that is so much bigger than one life. So it's hard to justify. But I mean, if let's say it's a very small sum of money, maybe that's reasonable. Or if that group can't use the money, or if you also put in resources to fight them. But I think it's very hard to justify to pay a group like that.
That's all I can ask.
When I was sick and very lonely out in the desert, I think I would have done, I would have agreed on anything, and so would my family. But this is a decision that should be made by someone else. And you have to take into account other people's lives too, even if they're not Swedish or South African or whatever. You have to take in how you affect the local situation.
بداية التحول كانت في يونيو العام 2017، وتحديدا قبل نهاية شهر رمضان. في تلك اللحظة بالذات لم يكن جيهان متأكداً مما سيحصل له. آنذاك سمع قائلاً ينادي: جيهان غوستافسن، أحزم أمتعتك. عبارة جعلت مشاعره تختلط تماماً، خوفاً من المجهول الآتي، لكنها كانت بداية العودة.
So it happened very soon, very quick. There was just a car arriving in the camp, and I was told to get on the car. And my first instinct was to try to pack down as many of my things as possible. Like the hut, the poles, and the fabric that I was using to make a little hut with. And when I wasn't allowed to do that, I had to spend a lot of time to make like a portable place that I could bring. So I tried to really insist that I want to bring my things, but they wouldn't let me. And then, of course, it was very fast. I didn't have time to say goodbye to the South African Steve, and then we were driven across the country, and in the desert, we met up with a whole line of cars, and there I could hear like a Swedish policeman, they calling out my name in Swedish, and then I knew it was true. Like they couldn't fake that. And my idea was that I would keep my like Muslim identity until I landed in Sweden. But when I heard their voices and I saw them, they were very taken. Some of these policemen, they had worked on my case for 5 years, so they knew my family very well, and then finally they saw me, so they were very taken by this. I didn't know them, of course, and then I was just taken very rapidly back home to Sweden. So in a few days, it was Eid, end of Ramadan, that day, and then just from celebrating Ramadan, I was home in less than 2 days, standing with my family. Well, so there was a lot of things happening, of course, from just meeting people that I could talk to in my own language, people that could understand me, and so I basically just talked. People asked me what I ate and things like that. It wasn't important. For me, it was just talking to people that I could relate to, and they could relate to me. So the whole airplane ride, I was just talking and talking. And when I landed in Stockholm and saw my family, it was such a relief. For them, it was such a celebration, of course. They had been going through this for all these years, and it had affected all of their families. I have 5 sisters, and of course all of their families had to, like all the holidays and everything, it would be kind of spoiled. My sister, they got children, and they felt they couldn't really be happy because I was kidnapped. And then it was such a relief, particularly for them. For me, it was more like I got survived cancer or something like that. It was a relief, like a long struggle, and then just I could breathe. I got home, and suddenly there were people that cared for me, and I could talk to them. It was a different life. I don't see that they took away anything. It's just I survived, so it was something to learn from, I think. And the time also made it less traumatic because I spent so much time with my kidnappers. So it wasn't so traumatic. If they had released me after a couple of months, I think I would still be thinking about it a lot more and going through what happened and try to understand what happened to me. But now, after more than 5 years there, I was very done with it. I was finished. I was so ready to go home, and I don't think about it. And the people who are close to me, we don't talk much about it. So I go on with my life and I don't think much about it. I mean, they live in a lot of conspiracy theories on how non-Muslims behave and act. I mean, even if you're not Muslim, you care for your family and your country and other people too.